My name is Jessica, and for 6 months, a man paid me to die for him. Not to kill me? Not exactly. That was the whole point, I guess. He paid me to almost die, right in front of his camera, over and over again. He paid me to let him push me to the very edge, to watch me tip over, and then to yank me back at the last possible second. 8 times. I have the track marks and the nightmares to prove it. He has the videos. Let me be clear from the start, because I know how this sounds. I wasn't some innocent lamb. I was a user. A functioning one, for a while, anyway. Waitressing, cash here and there, enough to keep my own habit in a manageable, sad little orbit. Heroin. It starts as a warm blanket, ends as a prison. I was in the prison, but I was still decorating my cell, thinking I had some control. So when the offer came, it didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a fucking promotion. It was through a guy I knew, a dealer named Leo. Not my usual guy, but someone you'd call for special occasions. He pulled me aside one night after I'd paid him. "I got a client," he said, his voice low, like he was sharing a stock tip. "Weird dude. Rich. He's looking for a girl, for a specific thing." "What kind of thing?" I asked. I was thinking escort stuff. Fancy parties, maybe some kink. I wasn't above it. The need makes you flexible. "Not that," Leo said, reading my face. "He's got a medical interest. He wants to film. He'll supply the product. The best you've ever had. Pure. And he'll pay. $2,000. Cash. Per session. $2,000. For one night." That wasn't just a fix. That was freedom for a month. That was breathing room. "Film what?" I asked, the first prickle of something cold going down my spine. Leo shrugged, a little too casually. "The process, the high. He's a connoisseur or some shit. Wants to document the aesthetic of it. He's safe. He's got all the safety stuff. Narcan, oxygen. He's a professional." "A professional what?" I didn't ask. The $2,000 was shouting in my ears, drowning out the little voice. "How long?" "Few hours, maybe 3, 4. You just be yourself, do your thing, but with his stuff, and let him film." I said yes. Of course I said yes. That's the part people who've never been sick don't understand. The drug isn't just about pleasure. It's about solving a problem. The problem is you, and the world, and the pain of being alive. $2,000 solved every immediate problem I had, so I said yes. He called himself Vincent. The first meeting was at a hotel, a sleek minimalist boutique place downtown. Not a room, but a suite. All neutral tones and cold, expensive surfaces. He opened the door himself. He was in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. Salt and pepper hair, perfectly cut. A cashmere sweater. He looked like a professor or a very successful architect. He had calm eyes. That was the first thing I noticed. Not kind, not cruel, just calm, observant. "Jessica," he said, not a question. "Come in. Thank you for coming." The suite was massive. The living area was set up oddly. The usual furniture was pushed to the walls. In the center of the room was a sort of platform, like a low, wide bed, draped in white linen. Clinical white. Above it, on a professional-looking tripod, was a video camera. A small red light was glowing on it. Off to the side was a table. On it was a tray. On the tray were medical supplies, alcohol wipes, tourniquets, syringes still in their sterile wrappers, and vials. Small glass vials of a powder that was an almost blinding white. Next to that was another tray with an oxygen tank, a clear mask, and several boxes of Narcan nasal spray. It was the juxtaposition that froze me in the doorway. The luxury of the suite against this stark, medical staging. It felt like a film set for a very specific, very private movie. "Please." Vincent said, gesturing to the platform. Make yourself comfortable. Would you like some water? I assure you, everything is sterile. I am trained in advanced life support. His voice was smooth, professional. That somehow made it worse, and also more reassuring. A crazy person shouting is one thing. A crazy person with a calm, measured voice and a fully stocked crash cart is something else entirely. I walked over to the platform and sat on the edge. The linen was crisp. The terms are simple, Vincent began, standing near the camera. He didn't look at me. He was adjusting a dial on the side of it. I will prepare the administration. You will inject it here, in your arm, where I can film the entry clearly. I prefer you use your left arm. The lighting is better. He said it like a cinematographer discussing a shot. You will then recline. I will film the onset, the peak, and the subsidence of the experience. My role is to observe and to ensure your safety. You are to immerse yourself in the experience. Do not play to the camera, just be. The authenticity is paramount. And if I go too far? I asked, my eyes darting to the Narcan. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. That is my responsibility, not yours. Your responsibility is to let go. The 2000 is on the nightstand. You may check it. I looked. A neat stack of $100 bills. Real. I looked back at him, at the calm eyes, at the setup. My addict brain was already separating into two people. One was terrified, screaming that this was a snuff film waiting to happen. The other was calculating how many times I could do this before I could get into a real rehab, how this was my ticket out. The second voice won. It always does. Okay, I said, my own voice sounding small. He nodded. Excellent. Let's begin. He prepared the shot himself with a meticulous surgical precision. He didn't wear gloves, which I found strangely intimate. He measured the powder, mixed it with sterile water, drew it into the syringe. He flicked the barrel with his finger. He approached me, tourniquet in hand. Your arm, please. I offered my left arm. He tied the tourniquet, tight and efficient. He swabbed a spot in the crook of my elbow. His fingers were cool. A promising vein, he murmured, more to himself than to me. He handed me the syringe. Whenever you are ready. My hands were shaking. This was it. This was the moment. I lined up the needle, took a breath I didn't need, and pushed it in. The register was immediate and intense, a clean, sharp pierce. I depressed the plunger. The hit was astronomical. Leo wasn't lying. It was pure. It wasn't the gradual muddy warmth I was used to. It was a nuclear sun exploding in my chest, instant and overwhelming. A wave of perfect, weightless peace detonated, rushing up my neck, flooding my brain, silencing every worry, every ache, every memory. It was the platonic ideal of a high. I think I made a sound, a sigh that came from the very core of my being. I slumped back onto the white linen, my eyes losing focus, the world softening into a beautiful, welcoming blur. Through the haze, I was dimly aware of Vincent. He had moved closer, the camera now handheld. I could hear the soft whir of its lens adjusting. He was filming my face, extreme close-up. I didn't care. I was floating. I was home. Time became meaningless. It might have been 2 minutes or 20, but then the sun in my chest began to grow hotter, heavier. The warmth started to curdle. The peaceful silence in my head was replaced by a loud, staticky roar in my ears. My breathing. I became aware of my breathing, or rather, the lack of it. It was slowing, each breath a tremendous effort, like sucking air through a wet blanket. The urge to breathe was there, but the command from my brain to my lungs felt disconnected, broken. Panic tried to surface, a distant, muffled scream from a locked room inside me. But the heroin was a superior force. It smothered the panic, not with peace now, but with a terrifying, leaden indifference. So this is it, a part of me thought, idly. Okay. I felt my body start to jerk, little twitches in my legs and hands. My vision tunneled to a pinhole. Vincent's calm face at the end of it. The camera lens a dark, unblinking eye beside him. I remember his voice, calm as a lake. Respiratory rate is dropping, cyanosis setting in around the lips. Interesting. The myoclonic jerks are beginning. He wasn't talking to me. He was narrating. For the camera. I was a subject, an experiment entering a critical phase. The pinhole of light started to fade. The staticky roar was all there was. I was drowning in warm, dark syrup. I felt utterly, completely gone. Then, a sharp, invasive pinch in my nose. A blast of something chemical and violent. It felt like ice water and razors being poured directly into my brain. The dark syrup evaporated. The roar cut out. And I was slammed, back into my body. A gasping, painful, wretched return. I convulsed, my back arching off the platform as my lungs seized and then dragged in a huge, ragged, burning breath. Then another, and another. I was choking, coughing, my whole body screaming in shock and violent, immediate withdrawal. Vincent was there. He had put down the camera. He held the oxygen mask over my nose and mouth. Breathe, Jessica. Just breathe. It's the Narcan. It's perfectly normal. You're back. You're safe. Tears streamed from my eyes, a mixture of physiological response and pure, undiluted terror. I had stopped breathing. I had died, and he had brought me back. Not out of compassion, but because the experiment wasn't over. As I lay there shuddering, vomiting bile into a basin he provided, he picked up the camera again. He filmed my recovery. The sweating, the trembling, the wide, animal eyes of someone who just saw the void. Fascinating, I heard him whisper. The immediacy of the reversal, the trauma of return. When I could finally sit up, weak as a newborn kitten, he handed me a glass of water. His expression was one of pure, clinical satisfaction. Excellent, he said. A perfect first session. The data is pristine. The money is yours. He gestured to the nightstand. I'll be in touch. He was in touch the following week, and the week after that. It became a routine. Every Tuesday night. The same suite, though he changed hotels every month. The same setup. The white platform, the trays, the camera. The $2,000 lost its glitter. It became just fuel. Fuel for my normal habit, which now seemed pathetic and weak compared to Vincent's supply. Fuel for my life, which was now entirely organized around these Tuesday nights. I was chasing the high from that first hit, the nuclear sun, but I was also, in some sick way, addicted to the ritual. To the extreme. To being the star of his terrifying movie. I learned his patterns. He'd always start with a baseline shot. A smaller dose, just to get me high, to get me relaxed and pliable for the camera. He'd film that for maybe 40 minutes, asking me questions sometimes. Describe the warmth. Where do you feel it? What color is the piece, Jessica? His voice was always calm, probing. Then came the primary event. He'd prepare the second syringe. This one was always bigger. He'd calculate it somehow, based on my weight, my tolerance from the previous week, my state that night. He was calibrating, getting closer to the line each time. This will be more profound, he'd say, handing me the syringe. And it always was. The rush was shorter, the descent into respiratory failure faster, harder. The blackout deeper. He had a name for it. He called it the dive, and he always caught me. Always. The Narcan was his net. He'd let me hang in that gray space, not breathing, my heart probably slowing to a dangerous crawl, for what felt like an eternity. He'd film it all, my still face, my blue-tinged lips, the slight twitches. He'd narrate the physiological signs with the excitement of a birthing coach. Then, at the very last moment, and I swear he could sense it, some invisible threshold only he could see, he'd administer the Narcan. The revival was its own special hell. The Narcan doesn't just block the opioids, it tears them off your receptors, plunging you into instant acute withdrawal. It's like being hit by a truck of pure sickness and panic. 1 second you're in the silent, peaceful void. The next, you're in a body that is screaming in revolt. Lungs burning, muscles aching, bones feeling like they're made of ice. And he'd film that too. The agony of return, the confusion, the tears. Sometimes, if the data was particularly compelling, he'd do it a third time in one night. A smaller dive. He called it an encore. By the third Narcan revival, I'd be a sobbing, shivering wreck on the white linen, begging for it to stop, my body torn apart by chemical whiplash. He'd give me a blanket then, and $100 bonus. For your endurance, he'd say. One night, after my 4th or 5th session, I was lying in the recovery phase, clutching the blanket around me. I was brave from the residual chemicals, or maybe just broken. Why? I croaked, my throat raw. Why do you do this? What do you get from these videos? He was packing away his camera equipment. He paused, looked at me with those calm eyes. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, "Life is a steady state, Jessica. A long, flat line of existence. Birth, minor fluctuations, death. It's boring. The only moments of pure, unadulterated intensity are at the boundaries, the very beginning and the very end. Birth is messy, loud, uncontrollable. But death, the approach to death, the threshold itself, that is a place of profound silence and focus. It is the ultimate transition. To witness it, to orchestrate a controlled approach to that line, it's the most real thing a person can experience. You," he gestured to me, "are my vehicle to that line. Your almost death. It's a masterpiece of intensity. I collect them." He said it like a man explaining why he collected rare orchids or vintage wine. I was his specimen. My overdoses were his art, his fetish. After that, the sessions changed for me. I wasn't just a junkie getting high for money anymore. I was an actor in a horror show, and the director was obsessed with the final scene. The money started to feel like blood money, literally. I'd look at the stack of bills and see the blue of my lips, the whiteness of the linen, the dark eye of the camera. The 8th time was different. I don't know if he miscalculated, or if my body had finally had enough, or if he pushed it on purpose. To see. The primary event dose was monstrous. I blacked out almost immediately after injecting it. There was no warm sun, no gradual fade. It was a switch flipped to off. What happened next, I only know because he told me later, his voice tinged with a kind of awe. My breathing stopped completely within 90 seconds. My heart went into a dangerously slow rhythm. The cyanosis, the blueness, wasn't just around my lips. It spread across my face, my chest. My pupils were fixed and dilated. The Narcan, the first dose, didn't work. He told me he administered a second one, and then a third. He used the oxygen, did rescue breaths. He said he was moments away from calling 911, which would have ruined everything for him. When I finally took a gasping, gurgling breath, the revival was apocalyptic. The pain was beyond anything I'd known. It wasn't just sickness. It felt like my soul was being shredded as it was forced back into my broken vessel. I was screaming, but no sound came out. I was blind for several minutes. When I could finally see, Vincent was right in my face, not with the camera, but with his own eyes. And in those calm, observing eyes, I saw something new. Not fear, not concern. Exhilaration. Pure, undiluted thrill. He had almost lost me, and it was the best session yet. He paid me that night. $3,000. A bonus for peak data collection. As I shuffled out, my body feeling like it had been run over and left in the rain, he said, "Next Tuesday, Jessica. I'm already refining the formula." That was the sentence that broke the spell. Next Tuesday. There would always be a next Tuesday. A bigger dose. A closer call. He would keep chasing that line, using my body as his probe, until one Tuesday, his net wouldn't hold. The Narcan wouldn't work. Or he'd decide, just for the ultimate data point, to see what happened if he waited 5 seconds longer. He wouldn't call 911. He'd just keep filming. I realized then that to him, I wasn't even a person. I was a consumable. A single-use camera headed for a final, fatal shot. I took the $3,000. I didn't go home. I went to a bus station. I bought a ticket to a city 1,000 miles away, with a name I picked at random from the board. I left my phone in a trash can. I left everything. That was 9 months ago. I'm clean now. It was hell, but a different kind of hell. One with an exit. I think about Vincent often. I know he has those videos. 8 documented almost deaths. My face, my body, in its most vulnerable, terminated state. He's probably watching them, curating them. Maybe he found a new Jessica. I hope to God he didn't. I'm telling this because I need it to exist outside of me and his hard drives. I'm telling this because when you're an addict, people think you've already thrown your life away, that you're not a person anymore. That makes you invisible, and invisible people can be used for terrible things. Vincent saw that. He saw a woman who was already, in society's eyes, halfway to dead. He just offered to pay for the rest of the trip and to film the scenery. He was the man who paid me to overdose on camera. And for a while, I let him. Because when you're in that prison, any door that opens looks like freedom, even if it leads to a darker cell. My name is Jessica, and I was almost a masterpiece in a rich man's collection of dying girls.